house that whispered every midnight. A terrifying true horror story from America. What if I told you there is an abandoned house in America where every person who spent a single night heard the exact same whisper, even though they had never met each other? No one could explain it. Some walked away forever changed. Others refused to speak about what happened inside. And one investigator left behind a journal that was never meant to be found. Tonight, you're about to hear the story hidden from the public for decades. Deep in the forgotten forests of northern Vermont, far away from busy highways and crowded cities, stood an enormous Victorian mansion known by locals as Black Hollow House. It had once belonged to a wealthy railroad businessman named Edward Callahan, who built the mansion in 1891 after making a fortune transporting timber across New England. At first, Black Hollow House was considered one of the most beautiful homes in the entire county. Its stained glass windows reflected colorful sunlight across polished wooden floors. Children laughed in its gardens. Elegant parties filled the grand ballroom. Musicians played the piano while guests danced late into the evening. But everything changed during the winter of 1907. Neighbors began noticing strange things. Lights appeared in empty rooms after midnight. Visitors claimed they heard someone quietly calling their names from upstairs. The Callahan family servants started resigning one after another. None of them explained why. Each simply packed their belongings and disappeared. Within a year, Edward Callahan himself vanished. His wife claimed he walked into his study after dinner and never came out. The room had only one door, no hidden passages, no broken windows, nothing. When the police forced the study door open the next morning, the room was empty. Edward Callahan had disappeared without leaving behind a single clue. No footprints, no blood, no signs of struggle. The mystery quickly spread through newspapers across America. Despite months of searching, investigators found absolutely nothing. Eventually, the mansion was abandoned. Nature slowly reclaimed the estate. Trees grew through broken fences. Vines covered the walls. The once grand gardens became an endless maze of weeds and shadows. For decades, nobody dared enter Black Hollow House after sunset. Local hunters refused to walk nearby. Even experienced campers chose longer routes to avoid the property. Whenever anyone asked why, the older residents always gave the same answer: because the house remembers. Nobody understood what that meant until the summer of 1987. That year, Michael Dawson was searching for forgotten American mysteries. He wasn't interested in ghosts. He specialized in exposing myths using evidence. When he first heard about Black Hollow House, he laughed. According to him, abandoned houses naturally created strange sounds. Old wood expanded, wind passed through broken windows, animals nested inside walls. Everything had a logical explanation. So he packed 2 cameras, several audio recorders, fresh batteries, a flashlight, camping equipment, and drove directly to Vermont. Local residents begged him not to stay overnight. An elderly woman at a nearby gas station looked directly into his eyes and quietly said, "If you hear someone whisper your name, don't answer." Michael smiled politely. He assumed the woman simply believed local folklore. Late that afternoon, he reached the property. Even before stepping out of his truck, something felt unusual. The forest surrounding the mansion was strangely silent. No birds, no insects, no wind, only complete stillness. The mansion itself looked even larger than photographs suggested. Its towering windows resembled dark eyes staring across the forest. Several sections of the roof had collapsed. The front porch leaned dangerously, paint peeled from every wall. Yet somehow, the front door remained perfectly closed. Michael checked his watch. 5:46 p.m. Plenty of daylight remained. He began documenting every room. The entrance hall was filled with dust several inches thick. Cobwebs covered nearly every ceiling. Old family portraits still hung along the staircase. Oddly, every portrait had scratches directly across the faces. Only the eyes remained untouched. Michael assumed vandals had damaged them decades earlier. Still, the pattern felt strangely deliberate. On the second floor, he discovered dozens of empty bedrooms. Most contained broken furniture, rotting curtains, collapsed ceilings, nothing unusual. Then he reached the final room at the end of the hallway, Edward Callahan's study. Unlike every other room, the study remained remarkably clean. Dust barely covered the wooden floor. The fireplace looked untouched. An old oak desk still stood exactly where police photographs showed it nearly 80 years earlier. Michael immediately noticed something strange. Every clock inside the room had stopped at exactly 12:17 a.m. A pocket watch, a wall clock, a small desk clock, even an old grandfather clock outside the hallway displayed the same time. He checked each one individually. None worked, yet every single one pointed towards 12:17. Michael carefully photographed everything before setting up his equipment. By sunset, 4 cameras covered different rooms. 3 audio recorders captured every sound. Motion sensors watched each hallway. Confident nothing paranormal would happen, he prepared dinner.
Darkness fell quickly. The forest disappeared beneath complete blackness. Around 11:45 p.m., the silence became almost unbearable. No crickets, no owls, no wind. Michael later described it in his journal as, "The quiet felt alive." At exactly 12:17 a.m., every camera inside the mansion shut off simultaneously. Not one after another, all at once. The batteries had been brand new. Michael reached for his flashlight. It flickered twice, then died. Only his backup lantern remained. As he replaced the flashlight batteries, he heard something. Soft, almost impossible to notice. A whisper. It came from upstairs, barely louder than breathing. At first, he couldn't understand the words. Then, the whisper came again. This time, it clearly spoke his name. Michael. He froze. His heart pounded. The voice wasn't frightening because it sounded evil. It was frightening because it sounded exactly like his late mother's voice. The same gentle tone, the same calm whisper she used when waking him for school as a child. Michael later admitted that for one brief second, he almost answered. Then he remembered the old woman's warning. If you hear someone whisper your name, don't answer. He stayed completely silent. The whisper stopped. For nearly 5 minutes, nothing happened. Then, a slow creaking sound echoed from the hallway outside Edward Callahan's study. Someone, or something, had begun walking toward the room. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, heavy enough to make the old wooden floor groan beneath each step. Michael stared toward the study door, holding his lantern so tightly his fingers turned white. The sound grew closer. One step, another, then another. Finally, it stopped directly outside the room. Silence returned. Michael waited. 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a full minute. Nothing happened. Taking a deep breath, He slowly walked toward the door. Every instinct told him not to open it, but years of investigative journalism had trained him to follow evidence, not fear. He pulled the door open. The hallway was empty. No footprints disturbed the dust, no movement, no sound. Only darkness stretching endlessly toward the staircase. Michael raised the lantern higher. Then he noticed something impossible. The dust covering the hallway floor had changed. Not footprints, words. As though someone had slowly dragged their finger across the thick layer of dust. The message read, "Don't look behind you." Michael's heart nearly stopped. His breathing became shallow. Every horror movie he'd ever mocked suddenly rushed through his mind. He refused to turn around. Instead, he stared at the warning. Maybe someone had entered the house before him. Maybe this was an elaborate prank. Trying to stay rational, he quickly photographed the writing. The flash filled. For just a fraction of a second, the bright light illuminated the reflection in a cracked mirror hanging across the hallway. Michael wasn't looking behind him, but the mirror was. Standing inside the study, directly behind where he had been standing, was the outline of a tall woman dressed in black. Her face remained hidden beneath a dark veil. She wasn't moving. She simply stood there, watching. The flash disappeared. Darkness returned. Michael spun around. The study was empty. Nothing. No woman, no sound. His pulse raced as he checked every corner of the room. There was nowhere anyone could have hidden.
The dusty floor, the writing, the cracked mirror, but the figure was gone. The reflection showed nothing unusual. Michael frowned. He knew what he had seen, yet the photograph showed no evidence. Trying to calm himself, he convinced himself it had been an optical illusion caused by the camera flash. That explanation lasted less than 5 minutes, because one of the audio recorders suddenly switched itself on. Nobody had touched it. The device had been powered off after its batteries died. Yet now, its tiny red light glowed steadily. A crackling sound filled the room. Then, voices. Not one voice, dozens, men, women, children, all whispering at once. The words overlapped until they became impossible to understand. Michael slowly increased the volume. As he did, every whisper suddenly stopped. Only one voice remained. A little girl, softly humming an old lullaby. The melody echoed through the empty mansion. Michael immediately recognized it. His grandmother used to sing the exact same lullaby before bedtime. No one outside his family should have known it. He quickly grabbed another recorder and compared the sound. The humming wasn't coming from the device anymore. It echoed somewhere inside the house itself, very close, maybe upstairs, maybe inside the walls. Then the singing stopped. A child's voice quietly whispered, "He's awake." The recorder clicked off. Dead silence. Michael stared at the machine. Its batteries were completely missing. He turned it upside down, opened the battery compartment. Empty. Yet it had just recorded a conversation. For the first time in his career, Michael admitted to himself that he couldn't explain what was happening. Around 1:30 in the morning, exhaustion began taking over. He decided to remain inside the study until sunrise. If anything happened again, he would document it. Minutes passed. Nothing. Eventually, his eyes grew heavy. Without realizing it, he drifted asleep in the old wooden chair beside Edward Callahan's desk. He awoke suddenly, not because of a noise, because someone was standing inches from his face. Michael gasped. The lantern had somehow relit itself. Its dim glow revealed an elderly man wearing an old-fashioned black suit. His pale skin looked almost gray. His eyes appeared completely white. Yet his expression wasn't angry, it was terrified. The old man slowly lifted one shaking finger, pointing toward the fireplace. Then he whispered only 4 words, "Don't let him in." Before Michael could react, the old man vanished, not gradually, instantly, as though he had never existed. The room became cold, so cold that Michael could see his own breath. Then, a loud crash exploded from downstairs. Glass shattered, furniture slammed across the floor. Something massive was moving through the entrance hall. Michael grabbed the lantern and carefully opened the study door. The staircase creaked beneath his feet as he descended. Halfway down, he froze. The mansion's enormous grandfather clock, silent and broken for decades, had begun ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Its hand slowly moved backwards instead of forwards. 12:16, 12:15, 12:14. Every tick echoed through the house like a heartbeat. As the hands reversed, the air grew colder. Michael noticed the family portraits along the walls. Earlier, their eyes had stared forward. Now, every portrait faced the staircase. Every pair of painted eyes followed him, watching, waiting. Then, from the darkness below, a deep voice echoed through the entrance hall. Not a whisper this time, a voice so low it seemed to vibrate through the walls themselves. It spoke only one sentence. "Someone answered years ago." Michael felt every hair on his body stand up. He suddenly remembered the warning from the gas station. If you hear someone whisper your name, don't answer. If that warning existed, then someone in the past must have ignored it, and whatever happened afterwards was still trapped inside Black Hollow House. Michael tightened his grip on the lantern and took one more cautious step toward the first floor. What he saw next would forever change everything he believed about reality.